Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kura Isagami, your resident tinkerer and Medarotter, and this is the Medarot News Network, bringing you all the latest developments and happenings with our favorite pet fighting robot series. Now this week, we actually decided to step away from the collabs for just a little bit, which actually is openly welcomed, as, in my personal opinion, kind of highlighting two reruns of collabs back-to-back. Well, not necessarily back-to-back, but more with a break week in between. It did feel kind of rushed, especially since they're trying to force a lot of new updates, especially with the tune-up feature, and has kind of upset a pretty fair number of players in fairly recent. But with that aside, things are starting to look up just a little bit with a couple game balance updates and some new features, and as well as a new face as we see here, as we actually take a moment to highlight and celebrate more or less the father of Medarot himself, and the one who has given us such a fantastic franchise that has brought us all together. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into what was announced in today's featured episode, which I thus highlighted the Horuma Rin Grand Slam. Starting up with the gacha banners that we do have upcoming this week, and we have a lot of gacha banners, just kind of highlighting a few of the big name models that Horuma Rin himself has designed in fair recent through the years. First of which, as you see here, is a complete brand new model which has been teased in previous weeks as part of the 7 Lucky Gods series that Horuma Rin has been working on drawing, and will make a new model for us on stream hopefully sometime soon, and that is SFJ0 Benten Sada with a kit of Force Control, Static, Microwave, Biped legs, and the Primacy leg ability. And just having Microwave alone will put her in a very huge step above the rest, given that right now this will make her the second model in existence to ever house such a fantastically and dangerously potentially powerful skill in and of itself. Next to her, we also have a rerun of everybody's favorite Hercules Beetle type dressed in red, KBT-04 Arc Beetle, with a kit of Hyper Beam, Power Rifle, Mega Gatling, Biped legs, and the G-Loader leg ability. Also a very fantastic model. I really don't have to say anything more beyond that. Arc Beetle actually has been one of the very first couple gacha banners that got this game started, roughly just about 2.5 years ago at this point. So I really don't have to go into detail over how handy he is pretty much on any sort of form on the field, whether as pure set or mixed parts. However, it is, just as mentioned here, Benten Sada is the first of the 7 Lucky Gods series, so very likely we may see more incoming, especially closer to when Horuma Rin himself decides to start working on those, and just kind of allow us to tune in and watch as he designs them. Now, in terms of the other gacha banners we have this week, and we do have several, more or less essentially one per day in this coming week, in a rather strange turn of events, but they did luckily decide to space them out one day each to make them a little easier to stomach and work on, depending on if you decide it's going to be a pull day or a skip day. And those models in particular, starting on 6/23, which is the start of the new week and the new cycle, is WEA-04 Parallel Deuce, with a kit of Hyper Beam, Press, Destroy, Multiped legs, and the Bloodstain leg ability. Naturally, this was our first major boss of story mode of the story back in Arc 1, so everybody who knows Parallel Deuce and what he's capable of know that he is absolutely a force to be reckoned with. The day after that, on 6/24, we'll be seeing a rerun of everybody's favorite feral weapon type, WEA-0 Beastmaster, with a kit of Press, Napalm, Hyper Beam, Multi-Legs, and the Trigger Happy leg ability. On 6/25, we'll be seeing COW-0 Red Matador with a kit of Perfect Guard, Sword, Regular Guard, Multiped legs, and the Hoplite ability. On 6/26, we'll be seeing everybody's favorite generic ninja type, NIN-0 Nin Ninja, with a kit of Tornado, Double Sword, Biped legs, and the Mirage leg ability. On 6/27, we'll see everyone's favorite and well-known devil type, DBL-01 Belzelga, with the kit of Restore, Double Sacrifice, Biped legs, and the Carrier leg ability. On 6/28, we'll see the very iconic and need I say more model of Weapon of Mass Destruction, WEA-01 God Emperor, with the kit of Break, Hyper Missile, Laser, Multi-Legs, and the Auto Charge leg ability. And then lastly, on 6/29, to kind of finish out the rest of the month, we will be seeing BAY-0 Primity Baby, with a kit of Force Control, Defense Seal, Hyper Crept, Float legs, and the Auto Repair leg ability. So as you see here, we have a lot of gacha rerun banners up and running, not even including Beetle himself naturally, and the new one Benten Sada. So definitely will be a little bit of a pick and choose week, as naturally for newer players, you may not be able to snag everybody, which is perfectly understandable. But as assurance to you all out there who are just starting to play or learning to play, or have only been playing for a short amount of time, these guys will come and go, so if you do miss them this time around, don't let the fear of missing out worry you or panic you too much. Just kind of snag on who you feel is the most important, and then just kind of play it from there. For veteran players alike, I'd say this is going to be very largely a skip week, unless there's someone in particular that you're really been gunning for or waiting on. Friends of mine in particular have been looking for Beetle or God Emperor for a very long time. So this is definitely going to be your golden opportunity to pick up either of those if Benten Sada or anyone else here does not interest you. Now moving forward just a little onwards, we will be seeing a lot of M1 OGs for our Fierce Battles this week. Starting up on the line, we have GLM0 Sekizo with triple missile, tank legs, and the continuous P leg ability. Then we also have SAM0 Samurai with the kit of Full Charge, Double Beam Sword, Biped Legs, and the Endurance leg ability. And then last but not least, we have everybody's favorite resident champion, KIN0 Kintaro, with the kits of Press, Double Hammer, Biped Legs, and also with the Endurance leg ability. Now honestly, all three of the models here do offer something of potential value one way or another. I'd honestly argue Kintaro probably on a somewhat lesser note to a point, but still very valuable all the same. That being said, it was honestly kind of tricky to dictate an MVP of the week to farm if you decide not to shoot for any events or tune-up part grinding that's been going on the last several weeks. But I do honestly have to give the MVP of the week to Samurai, given the fact that he does have double beam sword in his arsenal, and despite being only 1 star and somewhat expensive to raise because of that, it does honestly pay off in the long run to have those parts fully raised, as well as having an additional part that is full charge, even if in Samurai's case it is a heavy part. Behind him, I would honestly have to give a very close second to Sekizo, given though tank legs aren't the greatest in the game, I've mentioned this countless times in previous videos, the continuous P leg ability does honestly forgive this to a point and kind of make it at least tolerable, depending on if you're being forced to use tank legs or not. Now moving forward just a little bit further, just to kind of celebrate the Horuma Rin Grand Slam of all these gacha models and banners that we are seeing thus far, as well as the debut of a brand new model also designed by him, we are going to be seeing the Marathon Survival event make another round once again. Now, just to go over the rules of Marathon Survival for anyone that is unaware, this is a very unique form of event that basically is a survival and I guess kind of a roguelike to a point survival kind of thing, where you could basically just see how far you can go. However, there is a catch to how this behaves. For every round you complete victoriously in Marathon Survival, those 12 parts between the 3 bots you use are now added to a banned list, meaning you are not allowed to choose them again until you reach a checkpoint to continue forward, where the banned list set is refreshed. So ultimately, this is going to be primarily a test to see how well you've been raising other parts and how flexible you are with actually building teams with parts that you may not be familiar with, or maybe even forgotten that you had. Maybe to come up with a dark horse at the end of, out of nowhere when you least expect it. So definitely do expect this to come back around. The events in particular have been focusing a little closer towards the high-end veteran players, but thankfully, because of the way this event is designed, that is honestly of no worry to new and rookie players, as this means all of the Marathon Survival events as a whole will be making a return as well, meaning even if you can't participate in this one this time, you still have access to all the others to pick up and try your hand at all the same. Now, I have mentioned the tune-up feature in recent, but it's about time that everybody's favorite Hercules Beetle in red finally gets the tune-up treatment. And this week, that his tune-up event will start going live, and people can start farming for his parts to upgrade his overall performance on the field. Some of the highlights that they wanted to include that Beetle will be packing with just some of his options as a tune-up set include for his head part an additional head charge, which will put him on equal tier as, say, Beetle D, despite being at lesser power, and his head part also giving you a 20% charge reduction cost in getting the higher end damage bonuses, which already puts that in a very nice light and definitely worth going after right off the top. For his arms, there wasn't really a whole lot worth mentioning aside from some heat and cool bonuses, but in particular with it, they did want to highlight that his arms would be getting a damage bonus relative and actually now independent of the fact of whether his legs are intact or if they are broken, which actually was a very big determiner in how often people use Power Rifle and Mega Gatling, as the only way you could get that bonus is, of course, you kept your legs intact. But now with this, you will get an additional bonus depending on if your legs are intact, and you'll actually still maintain a little bit of a bonus even if your legs are broken. So not necessarily a huge cut to power as it used to be originally. And then last but not least, with his legs, a couple of the highlighted bonuses that they're offering include a ×3 CG bonus relative to what G-Loader offers, and then we also have an additional S rank on prairie-based terrains, similar to how, say, Nines was able to get it on grasslands, or so on and so forth. So naturally, the tune-up will not be going anywhere. It will not be in any particular rush. The EX trial ones may come and go, honestly, in terms of how difficult they can be or worth going after. But honestly, the tune-up feature, I'm still working on putting together a presentation for that as I better understand it. But do stay tuned on that when I do come out with that episode to kind of go into better detail and explain a little clearly how exactly the tune-up parts mechanic now runs. But aside from all that, the only other thing that was really worth highlighting was that we are finally getting a game balance, rather a game rebalance in this sense, which, in my personal opinion, is honestly something very, very hugely appreciative and very direly needed, which honestly leads me to believe that Imagineer is possibly listening to us. And if you are, thank you so much for considering this. If you guys do have any concerns on that or curious about what I'm talking about, go back and watch my video, well, lecture I guess you can call it, called Imagineer, We Have a Problem, where basically I just kind of go over all the problems and game imbalances that players both here on the Western front and the Japanese front have complained about Medarot S that need fixed in order to make the game better and get it back on track of being a great game. But with that aside, I do digress. Back to this week's episode, however, with this game balance, Trap Clear in particular will be getting a buff. This includes particular bots such as Brightness's Head or Black Stag when she changes into her Drive A mode in Meta Change. It is now fully capable of safely removing Disturbance and Repair Plan, which means Disturbance is no longer as broken as it used to be, and basically trumping anyone that had any kind of support-based skill. Now it actually has a proper counter. And with this, I believe this will very hugely change up the meta, as when Sidekicky came out with Disturbance on an arm, that absolutely made things a one-sided train wreck in terms of stumping anyone that was not a forward offensive type bot. But with all that being said, on the community front, we are still continually looking for translators for the Medarot 3 and Medarot Reloaded translation projects. Translations for the Medarot 3 project in particular have been going particularly well, and there have been a pretty fair amount of headway being made in terms of translating the text and preparing it for retiling in the game from Japanese to English. But we are still continuously looking for extra help. So if you are versed in Japanese, coding, or cleaning with some time on your hands, we are more than appreciative of any effort that you'd be willing to provide. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or join our communities in the link provided below and ask around, and we're more than happy to get you in touch with the right people to tell you what needs to be done and what currently has been finished up to date. But moving forward with the weekly art highlights here on the MNN, it honestly wasn't super well. Then again, when is it ever hard to find fun Medarot art to highlight? And honestly, this week was kind of difficult if I'm completely honest. This week in particular, I did choose to highlight this particular art piece from Twitter user Miroku, who's actually well known for making or at least in fairly recent, making a lot of the Medarot designs back in the style of like the early 90s concept art, which honestly is really nice. But this piece in particular, aside with another one as well that they did, was actually kind of making, I'm just going to say, opening ending scenes, like if Medarot S were made into like a 90s anime, highlighting the lyrics and scene and music credits to songs Super Soul Survival by Shushu Pop or Secret Sense by Leah Lila. So fantastic art piece there and a wonderful Medarot artist all the same. And of course, I do have to highlight one of the residents, fantastic Medarot artists in the community that has definitely had a hand in several official Medarot designs through the games and through the years, and that is Tiuga3 on Twitter as well. highlighting this special piece, celebrating the release of Kokono Elegy, the nine-tailed fox type, that did go live this week. So both of which are fantastic artists you generally will never ever go wrong with following to add that daily Medarot art into your weekly feeds, and just to keep up to date on everything going on. But aside from all this, I believe that covers just about everything for this week's episode, so thanks again for stopping by, folks. If you'd like to know more, you can follow us out below on Facebook at the Medarot News Network page, or the Metabots Forever communities there. The community there on Facebook has grown to a staggering and truly wonderful 1,400 members, and still growing by the day. So I'm honestly very, very proud to be managing that community and see its continual growth going forward as we reach out to more sleeping members of the Medarot community here on the Western Front, and tell them, hey, the series is still alive, contrary to what a lot of people may think. But you can also reach out to us on Discord in the link provided, and this is a link to Project Rising Beetle's official Discord server, where we can reach out to primarily Western folks, but honestly it is an international community, meaning that we do have folks of every nationality and walk of life, and this is the greatest place that you can keep up to date with following more Medarot updates, whether that be merch, art, game updates, my weekly episodes. This is the first place you will hear it more than anywhere else. You can also reach out to me personally on Twitter at isagamikura, so if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, comments, my DMs are always open for a reason, so don't be a stranger and feel free to say hi. You can also reach out, you can also give these fine friends of mine a follow as well on Twitter, Lux at Medarot Lux as well. I did highlight him fairly recently as well, in the fact that he basically took my entire I'm just, again, calling it lecture video, Imagineer, We Have a Problem, and managed to transcribe it into Japanese for a lot of my JP viewers or friends on the Japanese coast that perhaps follow me, but may also struggle with the language barrier as well. So definitely give him a follow on that. Look for that blog post if you are interested in what was transcribed, if English is not your first language. So thank you so much for that, Lux, if you are watching this, for your fantastic work working on that. It is an absolute wonder. It was an absolute wonderful hearing from you about and seeing what you've done to help that video reach out to other people. You can also give Omitsu or at Omitsu Draws as well a follow on Twitter for a lot of the work that he does. And one thing in particular that made him stand out in the community was in our Discord, he actually was working on putting a bot together that helps sort a lot of the existing models in Medarot as by particular stats or leg type that players might be looking for mathematical or search reasons, just in case they need something to look at on the fly. So fantastic work there as well for what you do. It is honestly a joy being part of such a creative community that is working to find its creative ways to not just link the Western and the Eastern fronts for the Medarot community, but also make it a lot easier for players, both new and veteran, to continue playing Medarot S with more community-made quality of life improvements. But with all that being said, thank you again for stopping by, folks. It's always happy to have you in for a visit. Until next time, this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.